WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany, tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have a bottle with only 350 bottles in this expression. This is Killowen. This is a blended whiskey. This is the Oatmeal Stout from Ireland, bonded experimental series, small batch with 51.4%. 560 bottles, as I mentioned, 550, and I have bottle number 161. 50 CLs, 90 euros is what we pay for this in Germany. So we're talking about a liter price of 180. This stuff costs more than Glendronach 21. Too expensive. Good. All right, so whiskey base 172-471. So Brendan, hi Brendan, I'm sure you're going to watch this. Now, Brendan, I admire you. I adore your idea of a tiny little distillery. I'm not sure about it being economical, but I adore it. And I would have visited you exactly in the middle of March of last year, but hey, COVID happened. And so I did not. Hopefully I'll be there next year or whenever we're allowed to go here. Now, the first thing I must admit is on the back of the bottle we have something which Brendan actually wears like a badge of honor. He's been blacked out. Don't laugh and hold this at the same time. All right, he's been blacked out again. So what we have here is, it says distilled in Ireland, 75%, beep. Grain Irish whiskey, 5%, beep. Malt Irish whiskey, distilled in Northern Ireland, beep. 20% Irish malt Irish whiskey. So Brendan pushed, and the Whiskey Association and the Food and Drug Administration and the Agriculture Association, what they're all called in Ireland, pushed back much harder. And the problem is transparency. Now, Brendan wants to have 100% total transparency, which we geeks also want. Unfortunately, when you take, for example, the from Book Laddie, the classic Laddie, there's a nice code on there. You go online and you type it in there. It used to be that actually the ages of the individual cask would be also listed. No longer possible. You're only allowed to name the youngest cask in there. So even Bruichladdich has blackened they have little things now blackened out. And that's just the part of our need maybe to change the transparency. Now, on the back of this bottle, and this is what I'm going to say, Brendan, thank you, but I'm a little not confused, but we're selling this as a single cask, right? And yet there's basically distillate from 3 different distilleries in here. 2 different countries, Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. I know Ireland and Northern Republic are considered one country when it comes to whiskey, but still, for me as a normal consumer, if I were one, I would be a little bit confused if I knew that this was a single cask and yet it came from 3 different places. Not just 3 different types of whiskeys, but here 3 different places. Yeah, we have grain Irish whiskey, we have malt Irish whiskey distilled in Northern Ireland, and we have malt Irish whiskey. So that is just a tiny little bit of like, how can that be one cask? Now I'll tell you how that can be, because we have something very interesting here with our Imperial Oatmeal. This was actually a cask from the Mourne, I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, Mourne Mountain Brewery. So, where are you here? The guys from Two Stack, very interesting young and up-and-coming whiskey arm of the Irish Craft Beers Company Limited. They created a new brand called Two Stacks. They're using primarily at the moment Great Northern Distillery's juice. They bring it up to Brendan at the Killowen Distillery. He bottles it for them. A lot of small bottling. So what they did is the Irish Craft Beer Limited actually have in their program Mourne Whiskey Brewery. So they took a cask from him. Now this cask beforehand had held whiskey. Have I confused you yet? Maybe. So we have a whiskey cask. I don't know where the whiskey cask came from. Maybe it came from Great Northern. Maybe it came from Cooley. Maybe it came from Middleton. We don't know. It might have been bourbon for all I know. I didn't read anything about being Irish whiskey. I just read it being whiskey. So we have a whiskey cask and we have the beer aged in a whiskey cask. Very, very typical today. And then you take that cask and you use it another time, and you put here Brendan's whiskey in here, his blended whiskey. And what he actually said, Brendan, was not ever had he had as much angel share as from that cask. So the angels were very, very thirsty. They wanted some of that Oatmeal Imperial Stout of his 10-year-old, and that's why there's only 350 bottles. Over here we had, this was maybe a different size as well, we had 490 bottles. This was a barrique probably. This was a wine cask. A bourbon cask is 190 liters. Here we have about 230, 225. And so that might make up for the differentiations. So not only do we have 3 different types of whiskey from maybe even 3 different places, we've had a cask that's been used 3 different times. I have a little bit of the feeling I'm at Tulamadu, where they say we have 3 different types of casks and 3 different types of whiskey, and we have 3 different types of this and that. They always have that trio of 3. All right, very, very good. Yeah, 1 year finish. Thank you, Brendan. Now I have here the Cask. I mispronounced. I butchered that name. This was a acacia from Basque territory, from the Basque country. The one that I did not buy from you so far, I bought most of the other ones, was your tequila. I'm not a fan of tequila finished whiskey, so I didn't buy it. I think 90 euros is very, very high price for this, and I know that actually in Ireland it's even more expensive, and there's enough freaks going to buy it. So, hey, good for you that you have a loyal fan base there. All right, so on the nose, the very, very first thing I get is stout beer. It's a very light moment, but it's there. This was my comparison whiskey. I'm not going to do it now, but in the other video, and that wine taste after I had that in the glass was just so apparent. It was just imprinted my brain how that wine tasted. I think your blend is a fairly nice canvas on which to paint with these different type of casks. Well done, well done. Cask strength and a blend. It's not too powerful, and therefore your casks from the bonded experimental series really can shine in those different directions. Now, to be very, very honest, if I talk about me, I'm a kind of a main middle-of-the-road person with my whiskey palate. I do like a great bourbon. I do like an Irish. I'm into the single malts and Speyside and so on. Too much of smoke? No. Too much of a wine cask? No. Too much of a, I don't know, let's say a sherry cask even? No. Anything that goes out of that middle of the road type of moment, I'm usually going to go, no. So when I have a bonded experimental series in front of me that purposely paints outside the lines, what am I going to say? No. And on top of that, I am not a stout drinker. I do not like stout. I do not like beer. And so, Brendan, I'm sorry, and everyone else watching this, I'm the worst person in the world to review your whiskey at this moment, maybe, is I don't like it. I don't like it not because it's a bad whiskey, but because it's absolutely not my wheelhouse. It's not my cup of tea. It's not within those boundaries of the whiskeys I normally prefer. I applaud you. I commend you for drawing outside the line. So much so that people started hitting you on the fingers like in the Catholic Church and going, don't ever do that again. And yet at the moment you still have enough resilience to go out there and do it again. And do it again. And maybe you'll be able to push the boundaries for Irish whiskey and for these young craft distillers that are out there more and more in the right direction. Keep it up, Brendan. Good luck, and don't give up, okay? Now, as I said, this is if you want to have a whiskey, if you want to have a beer with whiskey, if you want to have a whiskey that tastes like beer, this is going to be one of your things. It's not a normal beer. It's an Imperial Oatmeal Stout. I don't know why oatmeal. I guess they did use oat. Oatmeal is something else, but maybe when they did the oats, it turned into like an oatmeal, and therefore they call it the Imperial Oatmeal Stout Cask. All right. One other thing that really kind of surprised me is in comparison to this bottle, this is the 10-year-old as well as this. This was 55.7%. This is 51.4%, a lot more angel share, and yet it's a tiny bit hotter. That alcohol, boom, goes in the middle, and this was like a supporting alcohol. This was a nice little bit, nice cask strength. This was like, ouch, a little bit too hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dilute it down before I even try it, which I've done in my German video already. And I'm going to take it down to about 48%. For me, the sweet spot in this whiskey that I'm not particularly fond of. Cheers. Mm. It's tasting more and more like a stout. You did a great. I'm gonna use that picture. Maybe you can use it as well, Brendan. I'm talking to Brendan all the time, but everyone else is listening. Please listen along. You have a canvas and you're painting on this canvas. And that original liquid that you had, those 10-year-old single malt or 9-year-old blended whiskey, then cask strength that you have, you can actually use these casks to paint a whole different picture. And you did a wonderful job of painting the picture you like. Unfortunately, it's not my flavor profile. Here, you did a very, very interesting job of painting that picture you wanted. A tiny little bit too much of a red wine for me. But I think what you're doing is you're kind of like the pendulum going way in the one distance and way in the other distance. And maybe when you get older and you have about 1,000 different expressions out already, you're going to go in the middle and just kind of go this way. But at the beginning, you actually have to go and see and test your limits, which you've done. And I think that's very, very good. Not my cup of tea, as I said. Still, if you can get your hands on it and you love Imperial Stout and you think Killowen's doing a great job, which I think they're doing, buy a bottle, buy a dram, find someone who has a bottle, ask him to open it up and share it with you. This is very good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have a tasting with Mareike Spitzer. You know her. She's Miss Irish Whiskey here in Germany. www.irish-whiskies.de. We're going to have 45 with me, 46 with her, 47 people on an online tasting. And this is going to be one of the whiskeys. Unfortunately, I had to buy 3 of these bottles to have enough whiskey because with a 0.7, you have 1.4 liters. Now with 3, I have 1.5 liters. So I can actually then share this, and we're going to have probably 40 of the 46 people that have never ever heard of your distillery and or ever tried this. So this will be on the Thursday before Easter. Probably now it will be after my video has been published, but still I'm really looking forward to see how these people react to the variety and to the different character types that we now have in Irish whiskey. It's amazing. All the best. Thank you very much for watching. Too expensive for me and my blood. But for the freaks out there, they're going to pay the money for it. So, hey, Brendan, why not charge that money that people are going to pay anyways, all right? So, thank you very much. One of these bottles that won't make it to the States, sorry. They're in Ireland. A few bottles make their way over to Germany because of the partnership, and the rest all gone already before you can find them. Thank you very much for all your attention. My question of the day is, what is your favorite beer-finished whiskey? So we have from Jameson, we have Caskmates, we have from West Cork, we have also a Stout, we have here from Killowen, we have a few other ones that have been Deanston, use the Dragon Milk. There are all these different beer-finished whiskeys coming out. So we have all these whiskey-finished beers. Why not the other way as well? Thank you very much. See you soon. Like, subscribe, tell others. Bye-bye.